Yeah.
You want to like them, but you can't.
Are you listening?
What?
Are you listening?
Did you bring me on this show to insult me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all don't want it with us, man. You straight gangsters over here,
Straight
man.
gangster. Yeah. Welcome back. You are listening to Scout Team Radio. We bring it to you hot and live like we do each and every morning. I am one of your gracious hosts. They call me Loudbeard.
You are the most egotistical, self-deluded person I have ever met.
And all of that is true. And the man on the other microphone, he is a great patriot. He loves America. He loves Canada and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's your boy, Chris America, coming to you live this Wednesday, February the 27th. It is 27 days into the month of February. Loudbeard, we are one day into the Combine and the Magic. We suck again.
That would be putting it lightly, Chris America. You can't even script a movie that is this bad because the Orlando Magic, I can't even talk about how bad was that game last night.
It was one of the most frustrating things to watch. We were up big, up by 16 like we should be against the tanking New York Knickerbockers, and they imploded, they fell apart, and they are who we thought they were, Loudbeard.
Yeah, they are who we thought they were. We are a sports talk radio show, but we're based out of Orlando. We're a national syndicated audience, but here in Orlando, we love our Orlando Magic, and every year there seems like there's a few games where we have that hope that this could be the year that we break out. This could be the year that we make the playoffs. We have gone 6 or 7 years in a row, and last night we remembered why our Orlando Magic are just who they are, and that is because in important games when it's time to step up, they just don't. They fall on their face. It was bad when they lost to Chicago a couple nights ago, and then losing to the Knicks, who could be the worst team in the entire league. It hurts because you can't lose to the worst team in the entire league when you are trying to make the playoffs. So you are correct, Chris America. They are who we thought they were, and our Orlando Magic have disappointed us once again.
Yeah, I think the most telling stat from this game was that the Knicks bench scored like 50 to 60 points, and our bench scored 4 to 8. So, like you said, we are a national syndicated show, but we are out of Orlando, so we appreciate all the other listeners to commiserating with us. Please send us your sympathies at Scout Team Radio on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. We could use a little pick-me-up this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want Boston Celtics fans calling in, though, or tweeting in at us because I don't know that they're going to be bringing much energy either.
Well, we're here for them, okay? Just like they're here for us, we're here for the Boston fans. They did get utterly destroyed by the Toronto Raptors, who lost to our Orlando Magic last weekend. This is what I don't understand. We play down to our competition and we play up to our competition, which for our playoff run and the rest of our schedule doesn't bode well for us because we have a very easy schedule going forward. I think we have the Warriors, so we'll probably end up beating them. And then we play like the Cavaliers, and I know we play the Sixers in the next few games, so we'll probably beat them because they're good. So we'll play up to their level, lose to the Cavs. I don't know who else is left on there, but I'm sure if it's a bad team, if it's a team that's not in the playoffs, we will find a way to lose to them.
Yeah, and when you were looking at the schedule, compared to all the other Eastern Conference teams that are sitting there fighting for those last two spots, the Magic had the easiest road. But now that I look at it, I think to myself, okay, if they're going to lose to the really bad teams and play down, it might be better if they had a harder schedule. It is almost an Achilles heel to have a weak schedule the end of the season for the Orlando Magic because the worse the team is, the worse the Magic play. if it's a great team, they get all pumped up. They're ready for it. They play great defense. They take it to a team like the Toronto Raptors. And then they go out and they lose to teams like Chicago and New York that they have no business losing to. And it just tells us they have no business being in the playoffs if they cannot play up to that style of competition. And I don't know. It's very, very frustrating as a fan. And I mentioned the Boston Celtics, and you said they got blown out. But the Boston Celtics have lost 5 out of 7. And Kyrie Irving, I don't know where this guy's been, but last night he scores 7 points. It's not a good look when your superstar scores 7 points and you get blown out by over 20 points by the Toronto Raptors. I mean, not looking pretty in Boston.
Yeah, especially when your highest scorer is Marcus Morris with only 17 points. Not a single player on that team. A star-studded roster, if you ask me. I mean, Al Horford, Kyrie Irving, Marcus Smart, Gordon Hayward, Marcus Morris, Jason Tatum, none of those guys could get you over 20 points and help your team. Now, when you look at the box score, though, it was really just one bad quarter. They were up 32-30 in the first quarter, Boston Celtics were, and then they just imploded in the second quarter, lost 36-13, and then the rest of the way, it was still fairly close. It was a 29-23 third quarter and a 27-23 Boston, that is 27-23 fourth quarter. That second quarter implosion, they just couldn't bounce back from.
Yeah, the second quarter killed them. The Raptors, we talked about their depth quite a bit on this show, and there's a guy on there that I haven't mentioned at all on our radio show, and I should. This guy, Pascal Siakam, who was one of those fringe all-stars. Some people had talked about him possibly being an all-star. Honestly, going into the season, I had never heard of this guy. Never once. And he is playing at an elite level for the Raptors. So the Raptors, not only is Kawhi playing great, not only do they have Kyle Lowry, who has double-digit assists last night, but they have other contributors. And this guy Siakam, he's like the 27th pick in the 2016 draft. He's out of Cameroon. Again, I had never even heard of this guy. And this season, he is playing lights out, starting for the Raptors. And he has a season or career high last night with 25 points and leads the Raptors to that victory.
Yeah, and the other good thing about this victory is that Kawhi Leonard didn't play that much. Only 26 minutes, got 21 points, brought great value to the game, and they were able to beat the Boston Celtics without any wear and tear on him whatsoever. So that's also a good sign for the Toronto Raptors as they come down the stretch. I know they rested him, I believe, against our Magic. It could be one of the reasons why we beat the Toronto Raptors, but Toronto has no business losing to the Magic with or without Kawhi. But coming down the stretch, that's good for the Raptors that they're still able to beat teams like Boston while also not putting many miles on Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, it's the old Golden State theory. When Golden State was like killing teams a few years back when they had that great record, they would go into the fourth quarter and Steph would not even play a minute in the fourth quarter because they would have such a big lead. The Raptors don't need to keep Kawhi out on the court. One, they have so much depth. They have such a deep roster that they have so many other guys that can fill in and that they don't miss a whole lot of they don't miss a step, I guess I should say, when Kawhi is not in there because they do have a lot of great depth. So they can rest some of their guys. They don't need guys playing 38 minutes and 40 minutes. They have guys on their team that can play 20, 25 and give it you quality minutes, and you don't wear out your superstars. So this team's going to be well rested going into the playoffs. So the Raptors are going to be a dangerous team. Now, one other game last night in the NBA before we move on to other news going on in the world. The Denver Nuggets played OKC. This is a great matchup, two of the best Western Conference teams. And the Denver Nuggets superstar, kind of a little lesser-known superstar. He was an all-star, but Nikola Jokic had 36 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists, 1 assist shy of a triple-double. But he straight up dominated in this game and got the big win for Denver over Oklahoma City. So another great basketball game last night. A lot of NBA action, so a lot of fun last night. Again, the Magic, very sad. Very sad for the Magic.
Well, is Denver putting everybody on notice right now, Loudbeard? I mean, they played excellent last night. It wasn't just Jokic. It was Will Barton, Jamal Murray. They all scored over 20 points. Looking good. Jokic, you mentioned him. He almost had a triple-double, 36 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. Are the Denver Nuggets for real?
Oh, the Denver Nuggets are so for real. Now, this is a hard team to believe going into the playoffs because they don't have a ton of playoff experience because it's a lot of young guys. A guy like Jamal Murray, who's really young, a Jokic, who is a young player. This is a really good developing team. Now, the wild card there, and I haven't kept up on him too much, is Isaiah Thomas. I'm hoping Isaiah Thomas gets back into the fold because in the playoffs, he can be a very dangerous piece. Even if he's just coming off the bench, giving you 15, 20 minutes, he's a guy that brings that veteran leadership. So the Denver Nuggets, yes, beating a team like OKC with a guy like Paul George, who is in that MVP conversation, a guy like Russell Westbrook, such a great team. Denver goes out there and says, you know what? Don't forget about us. And we're not talking about Denver that much. We're not giving them that credit that they deserve. But they're showing us each and every night why they deserve to be in that conversation as being one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
I'm just ready for somebody to make a deep run on the Warriors. I'm just ready for it, Loudbeard. I think the rest of America, everybody but Golden State Warrior fans are ready for it. I'm not sure anybody who's out there saying, I'm not a Warriors fan, but I'd really love to see him win it again.
Yeah, I think we've all seen this before, and we're all tired of the same movie, right? You can only watch the same movie over and over. Like if you're watching the sequel to Joe Dirt, you can only watch it 3-4 times before you're tired of watching it.
Oh,
right?
I thought you were going to say 3 to 4 minutes.
Possibly the worst sequel ever. But I'm sorry, I'm getting you all worked up this morning, Chris.
You
Merrick.
are,
I
man.
know that's funny.
It's a hard
Joe
topic
Dirt,
for me to talk
#1.
about. Joe Dirt #1 is one of the true loves of my life. It brought me through a hard time. It was a movie that I did watch over and over again, and I enjoyed it for its simplicity, for its stupidity, and for its mind-numbing entertainment.
Yeah, I absolutely hate when you kind of enjoy the first movie, and then the second one ends up being a total just stinker. I kind of felt like that with Boondock Saints.
Especially when the first movie ended. When the first movie ends, and you're just like, okay, I'm good. Like, I don't need any more to the story. We wrapped the bow. We tied everything up nice and neat, and I can move on with my life.
Yeah. They forced that one.
But yes,
I'm with you, Chris America.
Boondock Saints 2, also just so disappointing.
Yeah, Boondock Saints 2 was disappointing. I've got a couple ones that I have vivid memories of. Not that the first Mortal Kombat was a great movie, but the second one was so awful that the first one looks like an Academy Award-winning movie because the second one was an absolute stinker. I don't get it.
The Mortal Kombat movies were like, you ever hear that expression, it can't get any worse than this? And then have you ever heard the expression, hold my beer? That was Mortal Kombat in 2 expressions wrapped up into one.
Yes. But that second Mortal Kombat to me is one of the worst movies ever made. Unwatchable.
Okay, so Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
On the movie side, I thought Street Fighter was a better movie.
Yeah,
I did.
definitely.
It was more enjoyable. Now, it's not that I didn't like the first Mortal Kombat. I know it was a cheesy movie and bad, but I was entertained by it, and I could watch it all the way through. Yeah.
Plus the song from that movie.
Yeah.
Total BA.
It is. And going back and watching it, I realized how bad some of it was. Like Goro, the costume, he was just like a clunky. Anyway, I digress.
Oh, that was just. I think they needed to remake the movie just with today's CGI technology, just so we can okay, it looks good. I think it would be an awesome movie, CGI. The only problem is it's a fighting game, and it's hard to get a storyline out of a fighting game. It just is. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think somebody could do it. Chris America, you and I we're going to start becoming executive producers, and we're going to pitch a new idea.
I'm on the Twitter hot take hotline for @ScoutTeamRadio. Mike Burlon from Craft Brewed Sports says, you can't say Joe Dirt 2 is the worst sequel ever in a world where Caddyshack 2 exists.
That's a hot take, but Joe Dirt 2 is really bad. Now, Caddyshack 2 was not good. He brings up a fair argument, Chris America. He brings up a very fair argument.
This is the theory of relativity here now. Caddyshack 2 isn't as bad as Joe Dirt 2. It's just not. But the distance between Caddyshack 1's greatness and Caddyshack's 2 awfulness is so huge that it makes Caddyshack 2 relative to Caddyshack 1 that much more awful than Joe Dirt 2.
Yeah. Okay. Fair argument there.
Do you like that theory? I like that.
Yeah.
Just because I said it.
The original Caddyshack was so classic. It is one of the greatest comedies of all time. And, yeah, the sequel just completely tanked. And, Joe Dirt isn't considered one of the greatest comedies of all time. It's more of a cult classic.
Unless
where
you're
there is
Chris
a
America.
following. If you're Chris America, yeah.
I am
you modeled your entire life and your hairstyle after Joe Dirt.
I am the El Presidente of the Joe Dirt fan club.
Yes. So you love Patrick Mahomes and Joe Dirt. Those are your man crushes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your secret celebrity man crushes.
Yes.
We're going to do this one day. We're going to do our fantasy draft off of terrible sequels because there are a lot of terrible sequels out there in the world. I can think right now I'm like popping some in my head and I'm like, man, I could talk about this all day, all these bad sequels out there.
Yes, there was the NWO sequel when they tried bringing that back in the WWE. Didn't work.
Yeah, no, that worked the first time. But
would you
not
say
the
bringing
second
them
time.
back is the sequel, or would you say NWO Wolfpack was the sequel to the NWO?
No, I like the Wolfpack. The Wolfpack was okay, but yeah.
But would you
bringing
consider
them
that a
back-
sequel?
No, that was
Just okay. It's more of a spin-off.
yes. It was a good
There we go.
spin-off.
It was a good spin-off. And then when they started breaking off into like 3 or 4 NWO factions after that, I was like, I'm done. That's when WCW died.
Yeah, it had its height at NWO, and then
Then they're like, okay, well, what other ideas do you have? And they're like, what about NWO Latinos? Okay.
Yeah. No,
I don't
wasn't
remember
working.
what I think there was a Latino one, and I don't remember what the exact name of it was. Maybe some of our wrestling fans at Scout Team Radio help me out. What were the other NWO factions? What were their names? But it was bad.
Yeah, I don't think we need to rehash that, but
Because I
good
think at one
example of a
point,
terrible sequel, Chris America.
one
Good
point was
example.
Rey Mysterio was in there. Like, what is Rey Mysterio, the most likable guy, doing in an NWO faction? But yes, terrible sequels. Now you got me thinking. What were some pretty bad sequels? I'm gonna have to look at this up because I think we should do a draft tomorrow.
Yeah, well, tomorrow or Friday?
Is it? Oh shoot, that's right. Today is my Friday for my real job. And,
look at you.
So I'm
You're
thinking
ready.
that today's Thursday. So yeah, the Friday we'll do a sequels draft. Hangover 2. Now, it has to be a sequel. Can it be a third? Or a fourth or a fifth?
Well, for our conversation today, we can do whatever we want.
Okay.
On Friday, we might have to make some rules. I kind of feel like it needs to be a sequel because if you're getting into the 4th or 5th or 6th movie or whatever, like I could say Saw 7 was the worst sequel ever. No, let's go
you're
the
right.
second movie, I feel like that would be a little bit better, but you're right. Hangover 3, really
Hangover
bad.
3. That's where I was going. You knew exactly where I was going.
Yeah, that's terrible. One of the worst. I kind of look at that with the Spider-Man movies. I thought the first Spider-Man was good, but then when you got to that third one, when they're trying to do so many different things with Venom, and it was an awful, awful third movie. And I digress. The other one, there was one other sequel, Chris America. I just want to bring this up real quick because we're nerding out. We're going movie sequels. I got a lot of sports to talk about, but I get into movies also. I got a lot of nerd in me, Chris America.
Don't worry, guy out there who's stick to sports guy. We'll get back to it, okay?
Yeah, we will.
Let
We'll-
all the other people who are onions, who have several layers to their lives, let us talk. Let us have our conversations. We'll get back to sports, Mr. Stick to Sports
I like your
guy.
Shrek reference right there.
Oh,
You're an
I
onion.
always
You
go
have
with
many
that
layers.
onion reference.
Yeah, it's
another
perfect.
time where it's like Shrek 2, it was okay. But where were you going, Loudbeard?
Oh, I was gonna say this one, and again, it's on the nerd side. G.I. Joe, like they came out with that first movie. I think it was called Rise of the Cobra or something like that. And I had really, really low expectations. And I went in and watched it, and it had Channing Tatum and Marlon Wayans or Sean Wayans. One of the Wayans brothers were in it. And it was really an entertaining, fun action movie. And I said, okay, well, they're going to bring a sequel out. Well, in the sequel, they don't even bring the Wayans brother back. They kill off Channing Tatum in the first 10 minutes, and then they're like, let's throw in The Rock and Bruce Willis, and let's try to make this just to blow things up. And they completely killed the story and went in a different direction. And I don't know. I thought they should have stuck with what they had going on in the first movie. It's like a new director came in and just completely blew it up. It's like when Batman was taken over by whoever else took it over, and Tim Burton stopped directing them. I thought that's when you started getting Arnold Schwarzenegger riding around on ice skates. That's how bad the second G.I. Joe was.
Yeah, they need to start, if they're going to kill off Batmans or superheroes or whatever, just reboot the movie. Just start us all over. Don't start us from the origin story. I don't need to hear the Batman origin story 50 different times, nor Spider-Man. But I do like it when they just kind of reboot it. Don't try to force it. Don't tell me this is the same Peter Parker. No, let's just roll with somebody else and start all over. Yeah, I saw the first G.I. Joe. I never saw the second one. And I'm trying to think, Loudbeard. I thought of this. Are there good sequels that are better than the first one? But before I say that, I thought of The Ultimate. Another one that's kind of like Caddyshack 2. The Matrix 2. I don't remember if it was Matrix Reloaded or Matrix Resurgence or whatever it was, but I remember being so disappointed in the Matrix sequel.
Yeah,
and then it got progressively worse to the third one.
Yeah, the first Matrix was so good that there was no way the sequels were going to live up to it, and they didn't. They just didn't, and you did. You went in with high expectations. Yeah, they were okay movies, but because that first Matrix was so good. Now, I saw a video clip. It was like an interview of Will Smith, and apparently Will Smith was going to be selected as Neo.
Yes.
And he kind of said, the directors, they were kind of like, yeah, this would be really cool if you could jump in the air and then the video would circle around you and you'd be dodging bullets and stuff. And Will Smith's like, nah, I'll pass. I'm going to go take on a real role and I'm going to go do Wild Wild West. That's going to be much better.
Yes.
He said that was one of his worst decisions ever, but Keanu Reeves killed it. And so he said, you know what? The Matrix would have been not as good if he would have done it. So he was cool with it.
See, I thought about it. I think he still would have crushed the role. I think he would have owned it. We would have seen, Will Smith as Neo. I mean, it's not like Keanu Reeves was this groundbreaking, actor beforehand. I mean, he did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Speed. I mean, those were his two biggest movies that I can think of prior to The Matrix.
Got to go Point Break also.
Point Break,
that was good.
I always forget he's in there.
He pulled off a good surfer. Yeah, dude.
And then Keanu Reeves kind of typecasted himself into that role, and we haven't really seen him in anything much until he comes along with John Wick. And I love that series. He's owned that John Wick series, even though I kind of have to tell you, Loudbeard, Mike Berlon's co-host, Scott, we got into it yesterday. He let me down. Have you ever had a friend let you down and you're just so disappointed in him?
Yeah, been down that road, yep.
Yeah, I almost had to defriend him. I almost had to block him. I almost had to tell Mike Berlon, what's going on with your buddy here? He is not. He said Scott says John Wick's not a good movie. I couldn't. I was beside myself. He likes 90210. Seen every episode of 90210, but doesn't like John Wick.
Can I tell you something? Or you got to promise you won't get mad at me?
Don't do this to me, Loudbeard.
It's not that I don't like John Wick. I watched the first one and I thought it was a good movie. I had zero interest in seeing the sequel. I thought it was good.
I can get that.
I don't understand the hysteria. There's a lot of views out there in the world where it's like John Wick, it's amazing. I didn't feel the same way. I thought it was a good movie. I didn't need a sequel, and to me, the rewatchable aspect of it, I wouldn't go and rewatch it or anything. To me, that's how you judge movies. If you want to rewatch it, that means it's really good. If you just you're kind of lukewarm on it, that means it was an all right movie. To me, John Wick was just an all right movie. So, Scotty, keep up the good work out there, buddy.
Scotty, too hotty. No, I can be okay with you having that assessment because it's kind of like The Matrix and it's kind of like Joe Dirt. John Wick was essentially a movie where we're like, the story wrapped up nice. We don't need a second one. I like the second one. I'm going to go watch the third one. I just like how much of a BA John Wick is, and the action scenes are really good, and the way that they've done their choreography in these movies with the tactical scenes is phenomenal. It's top notch, and that's what I really appreciate about John Wick. But Scott was all hating on it, and then next thing I know, throughout the day, he's like, by the way, I've seen every episode of 90210, and I'm like, I'm done with you, Scotty Too Hottie. I can't right now. I can't even.
Yeah, I think he was just trolling you at that point. Now,
No,
do you
because
think
this
watched
wasn't
it?
directed at me. This was just something he tweeted out on his own. This is something that just I was scrolling through Twitter, and then he's admitting this to the world. Not even just the original 90210, but all the newer ones too. When they rebooted it.
Yeah, I can't claim that. I can't claim that I've seen more than like maybe 2 or 3 episodes of any of the 90210 series. I just never once had an interest in doing that.
So I have to say,
now, do you think he's seen all the Dawson's Creeks also?
Oh, probably.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm
for
sure he's Team Pacey all the way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, I think once we get to Dawson's Creek, we can jump back to sports.
That's probably a good idea. Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Stick to Sports guy has tuned out completely and will never listen again.
No. It's all right, Mr. Sports Guy. We're going to get back to you. We just have a few minutes left before the break. I think I'm going to pull up this Randy Gregory story. I don't know if you had an opportunity to check this out, but Randy Gregory, he's a defensive player for the Dallas Cowboys. He has now been suspended indefinitely. This is his 4th suspension for substance abuse. Now, back in 2015, he was one of these jokers that goes into the combine and gets a positive drug test at the combine. Now, when you're trying to get into the NFL and you know that you're going to be drug tested at the combine, how do you fail that test? Like, you know this 3 months ahead of time, 6 months ahead of time, and you think these guys just have to be ridiculously dumb or have a serious problem to get busted. Well, this guy, Randy Gregory, he might be a little bit of both because he has been in the NFL. He's had 4 chances. He had a 4-game suspension, a 10-game suspension, a full-year suspension, and now an indefinite suspension. I mean, do these guys ever get it, Chris America?
No, a lot of them don't. But, Ladbert, I got to ask you something. If it's not PEDs, do you care?
Depends what it is, I guess. Like if it's just marijuana, right? Like
Right.
That's being legalized in a lot of places. It's losing its taboo. It's really not becoming as big of an issue as it once was. To me, personally, I could care less, except you know the rules.
Right. I mean, that's the only
it's-
part that bothers me is like, yeah, you know the rules, don't do it. But I think baseball doesn't even test for marijuana anymore. And I think every single sport should get there because I really don't care. If a baseball player is toking it up or a basketball player or a football player is toking it up before a game or after a game or in the off season, why do I care?
And honestly, it does have benefits on the pain management side. I know there's a lot of recreational use, especially with athletes that just that's what they want to do. And like a Ricky Williams, his was recreational use. He was one of the more publicized people that endorsed marijuana use. Now, the pain management side, these guys are getting beat up each day in practice, at games. Sometimes that pain management's a good thing. The leagues are just very hesitant to open that Pandora's box of letting a drug be legalized. So we're not there yet. You know the rules. You got to stick to it. And Randy Gregory is just an example of a guy that will never get it. Now, he would be a great candidate to go into one of these other leagues if they allow him in it, whether it's the XFL, the AAF, the Freedom Football League, whenever that starts, any of these other leagues, they would be happy to have a guy like this because he's a big name, and they would be kind of doing the, let's give him another shot opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to stay clean there or do they just won't care? But I agree with you. Some people say like marijuana is not addictive, but when you're faced with the decision of don't do marijuana and play football or do marijuana and continuously get suspended, that's where I feel like there has to be some component level of addiction. I know that science says there's no physical addiction that exists, but to me, when you know the old saying is like, I can stop whenever I want to. Okay, well then stop. Well, I don't want to right now. Then that to me is when you've admitted that you have a certain level of addiction, especially when it's costing you your livelihood. So, but Loudbeard, on the other side of the break, I learned something yesterday that the American or the Alliance of American Football didn't exactly get $250 million, and the league might not be as saved as people think it is.
When I'm working hard, I build up a thirst for sports. That's when I grab a cold 12-ounce sports radio. Ah, 12-ounce sports radio. Quench your sports thirst.
Scout Team listeners and friends of the show, I've got something special for you. It looks like 12-ounce sports radio has done it again. We have partnered with Rally House. You just go to the website, 12ozsportsradio.com. Click on the banner on the right side of the page, and it will take you directly to Rally House. Rally House has some of the greatest, most unique sports items for that diehard fan, casual fan, and anybody and everybody out there that is special in your life. So go ahead and check it out. Once again, go to that website, 12ozsportsradio.com. Click on the banner to the right of the page, and you will get taken to the best sports merchandise website on all of the interweb.
Ring Central features all-in-one phone, messaging, and video conferencing. It's easy to use with unparalleled security. Ring Central simplifies things so you can grow. Call Ring Central to speak with a representative about a price for your growing business at 877-779-3860. Again, that's 877-779-3860.
Hey everybody, it's your favorite Patriot, Chris America, and I want you to listen every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., and on replays from 11 a.m. to noon of Scout Team Sports. Listen, George Washington did not cross over the ocean blue in 1492 to defeat the Nazis, so you can listen to the same tired national clickbait sports stories. So once again, tune in to us every single morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then we replay from 11 to noon. I will see you there, and God bless America.
And welcome back. Thank you all for listening in. Once again, you are listening to Scout Team Radio. He's Chris America. I'm Loudbeard. We bring it to you hot and live every morning on 12-ounce sports radio, 6 a.m., and replay comes back on at 11 a.m. on the radio station. We also record every episode and drop it as a podcast. Make sure you check it out. If you can't catch us live, download it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or our website, scoutteamradio.com. And during our show, we love to get social. We already had a tweet in from Mike Berlon, but you can hit us up on Twitter at Scout Team Radio anytime, anywhere, and we will read your tweets on the air and discuss your topics. It is a good time. All right, Chris America, it is that time. You need to tell me a little bit more about this AAF scandal. I hope I can hear you this time. All right, so Chris America still out there, brushing his teeth, getting his hair did up, all that fun stuff. So
Are
Chris
you
America-
like are you like watching a live camera feed in my house?
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird.
Okay.
It's weird. So tell us a little bit about this alliance scandal that you were teasing on the break.
Well, a person from, I believe, Forbes or one of those money magazines had a conversation with Tom Dundon, and Tom Dundon's like, I don't know where this $250 million that I paid came from, but I didn't give the league $250 million. Like, that just sounds stupid. Why would I give $250 million to something that just started a week ago or 2 weeks ago? And basically, he said, I did basically buy the league. I am now the full-on owner, and I will fund it as needed. And as soon as the ratings drop or the attendance drop or sales drop, and I find out that this is not a viable business for me, I will close the doors. Like, it's not something that I'm, like, completely invested in. So it's kind of gone from this league is about to die, they need a bailout, to oh, now look, they've injected $250 million. Somebody bought it for $250 million, and it's saved. And now Tom Dundon, who I guess essentially is now admitted, like, I am basically the owner of this league. I didn't give out $250 million. That would be like one of the dumbest things I could ever do, is giving $250 million to an unproven product that, I'll see where it goes. Now he thinks there's a lot of potential here, especially on the gambling side. I didn't know this, but apparently there's an AAF app where you can kind of not really wager yet, but you can there's like a game where you can predict what the next play is going to be, and I haven't really looked too much into it yet, Loudbeard, but apparently there's this app and there's a lot of fun games that you can be partaking in during the games. I think we need to check this out this coming up weekend.
Oh, absolutely. We got a big matchup. Orlando's going it's going to be away at Salt Lake City, I believe, and it would be a fun time to get this app and check it out. Now, this guy, I mean, you don't become a billionaire and make stupid investments, right? Like, you're going to have a few stupid investments, but he's not just throwing money out at this league without having some sort of vetting process and making smart decisions, because he is a billionaire. So I believe him. I believe that he's maybe just kind of dabbling in this. It's not like something he's wholeheartedly going after, throwing a ton of money after. He's just dabbling because, his true love is the Carolina Hurricanes. You know that, right?
I mean, yeah, you'd rather put all your money and effort into a professional sports league that is viable, has been around for over 100 years, not some spring chicken, not some spring football league. And I think he sees the potential, though. He sees the potential here, and he's ready to try to make it work. So it's good news, but it's also bad news. It's not the news that you thought it was last week where, it's $250 million has been injected into the league and it's saved and they'll be around for a really long time because people don't make that. And we had that take last week because that's what we thought happened. And I do remember, I don't know if I said it on air or just thinking out loud to my friends, but I remember thinking like, man, I wonder how much interest he got into the league, because I feel like $250 million for 100% interest in the league is too much money, let alone anything more than that. So it seems like he just kind of bought the league. We're not really sure what price he paid to buy it in, and it's his now, but I don't think he's going to, go down with a sinking ship, per se. So if it doesn't succeed, then the AAF will fold.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I saw an article where the AAF, when it originally started, the guys that started it had gone up to Vince McMahon trying to see if they could purchase the rights to the XFL, and they were going to basically the AAF was going to be the XFL. And of course, Vince McMahon, being the guy that he is, he doesn't sell his product. Like, he owns everything, and he's not going to give it up. So they ended up saying, okay, we're just going to do our own league, and you do your thing, player. And so they came out and did the AAF. But now Vince is like, whoa, if you're doing that, I'm going to come back with my XFL. I don't see how the Alliance and the XFL and the Freedom Football League, like, one league can't survive barely. How are several leagues going to survive? The competition, they're going to eat each other up. Like, I feel like there isn't enough partnership. Like, why isn't the NFL stepping in and helping support one of these leagues and basically making it the minor leagues? Why aren't these billionaires trying to get together and make it work together? Like, to me, it would make sense if it ended up like if both of these leagues do okay, they merged and kind of made an NFC AFC, and it was like the AAF and the XFL, but they were one league and had one championship. That would be a win-win situation, but I don't know if any of them will survive because is it? I mean, I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, there's a lot going on here that you said, but if you remember the timeline of how all this came about last year, the XFL was announced first, and then the AAF came out like a week or two later. They announced, and then they're like, we're ready to roll their league to go for this season. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's kind of fast. And I thought that one reacted to the other, that the AAF reacted to the XFL. Now it comes to find out F was able to roll out so quickly is because this is something they had been working on quietly behind the scenes, before the announcement. So that's why they were ready to go, because I feel like they had all their ducks in a row, and then they announced it. Where I think what happened is when they finally got that one duck, we're like, okay, well, what are we going to name this league? Everything else is set. Well, the XFL is a brand. Maybe we can purchase that from Vince, and we can just write off of that brand, and having that known name out there will set us apart, and maybe we can work with that. And then they went to Vince, and Vince said, no way, Jose. And then that got Vince thinking, well, maybe I should bring back the XFL. If other people are interested in it and they think that it's a brand, maybe I should bring it back. And then so he's jumped the gun and said, I'm bringing back the XFL. And now it's been, a year now, and they still haven't even announced a TV contract. They've announced a couple of teams and a couple of coaches, but they're still a ways away while the AAF is in their fourth week of the season. So it's been kind of interesting. Now, to your point about the NFL and what they should do, I think they should have a minor league system. And the way I would do it too, Loudbeard, is I would kind of pick out larger cities that are near NFL teams to kind of help boost fans and get interest. So, for example, obviously the Green Bay Packers have no trouble drawing in interest in Wisconsin, but how cool would it be if you're in Milwaukee and you had a farm team for the Green Bay Packers playing in Milwaukee? And here in Orlando, like, we could have a farm team from Miami, Jacksonville, or Tampa, whichever one wants to send us a farm team. I think that would work out great. Maybe Atlanta could have a farm team in like Savannah or something like that. I think the possibilities are endless here, where you're kind of connecting your whole entire state around your NFL team and getting those fans that are like, I like the Packers, but Green Bay's like 2 hours away. I don't really feel any connection to them. Maybe I'm a Chicago Bears fan. That's just as close. Now that sounds, a sin to talk about in the state of Wisconsin, but I'm sure those people exist.
You make too much sense. That's the problem. I can't even argue with you because it all makes too much sense. I mean, why is Roger Goodell not jumping on this? I feel like the NFL, it's almost like an arrogance thing. They're like, we don't have to be involved with it. We don't need it. Yeah, I mean, they figure that college football is their minor league system, but there's so much more opportunity out there. Come on, get your head out of the sand and give the of a boost, because all of a sudden, if the NFL is backing it, now you have so many more resources, you have so much more funding, and this thing could really work. And the NFL could do like what they're doing now and have owners of each team. That way it's independent ownership instead of the league owning all 8 teams. And then you can get different guys where a billionaire could come out and just buy a team instead of having to buy the whole league. And you would have, I think, a better success rate, more funding, more attractiveness to it. Jerry Jones, I'm pretty sure he'd buy a team and have one in Texas. He wouldn't care. He'd be all for it, have a little minor league team. The whole Oklahoma college football team, when they graduate or they finish up their college football careers, if they can't make it to the NFL, Jerry would bring them all to his team in Texas. He doesn't care. He loves them. He loves those Sooners. So you're right. And it makes too much sense. It does. And that's the problem with you, Chris America. You are a logical SOB. That's what you are.
Thank you, sir. And it's the only major sport, I think, in the entire world that doesn't have a farm system. I don't even think, soccer, I'm sure they have all their farm systems in other countries. Hell, some people use the MLS as their farm system. Like, we're either a farm system for the rest of the world, or we are hey, we're setting you off to pasture. You're too old, like Kaká and Nani coming to Orlando type system.
Yeah,
but even that would be even that would be kind of great to see, some of these older quarterbacks that kind of had like a hot streak going on. Like, I think Larry Fitzgerald, or not Larry Fitzgerald, but Ryan Fitzpatrick would be great, to set to pasture in this league. And we would get behind him, and he would light up the AAF, and it would be fun to watch him go against lesser competition and to see that.
Oh, that's a great thought there. Chris America, I'm going to move on from the AAF because I've got a couple other sports topics I want to bring up.
Let's hear 'em.
I think I got to do this one first. So just hang tight and listen in. It's about 45 seconds, but it's gonna be, you're not gonna regret it. I promise.
And Stormy is the Lone Ranger at center ice with a skull clap. Let's listen. Here they come.
Oh, they've got the shirts.
Yeah, T-shirts for the Caniacs. A new wrinkle. And look at that. The bunch of jerks have returned with T-shirts for all. And for all, a great night.
And so, with that being said, my bunch of jerks are back after a huge win last night, 6-1 over the LA Kings. And this city is loving their new mantra, and that's right. They are a bunch of jerks. They got bunch of jerks T-shirts for every fan that went to the game last night. They had a big win, and this is now my favorite NHL hockey team, Chris America.
What? Oh, you're jumping ship already?
I like the Lightning. I can't just, it's like I got my roots are with the Lightning. That's what I grew up on. But I can't not like this Carolina team. I can't not like them. They're fun. They are a lot of fun. And you heard the crowd getting into it, and they have this light down on the ice. The whole arena went dark, and it just said "bunch of jerks" in writing, and that's what they were all chanting to. It's a magical thing going on right now in Carolina, and they are hot. They are as hot as any other NHL team right now. So I'm going along for the ride.
I'm with you, Loudbeard. I am too a fan now of the Carolina Hurricanes, with the Tampa Bay Lightning as my number one team. But I love this, and we need more of this in sports, man. Connect with your fans. Connect with them. We are the ones that are giving you the money. Make that connection. Please. Make it fun for us. Make it entertaining for us. Don't worry about the Don Cherries of the world who want us to be prim and proper. Screw that guy. It's all about the fans.
That it is. It is all about the fans. Poor Don Cherry. Everybody hates him now. He's the most hated man in all of Central.
Well, I mean, he's
North
basically
America.
like the guy that hates Christmas. Like, how do you hate Christmas?
Yeah,
Get out of here,
Scrooge.
Grinch.
He's a Scrooge. All right, another sport that was in the news yesterday, Major League Baseball. Spring training's getting into full force, but the Colorado Rockies, they tie up their guy. They finally get him.
Big signing.
Big signing. Nolan Arenado agrees to an 8-year, $260 million deal. So they say, you're our guy. We don't want you to go to free agency. We're going to extend you. We don't want to lose you. We're giving you the money that you deserve. And I love it. I love it. This guy is one of the best in all of Major League Baseball. And the Rockies did the right thing. They got him to sign. So, of course, the speculation now is, and I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of hearing it. I just want to see the news finally drop. Come on, Bryce Harper. Just sign a darn contract. We're tired of talking about you. Nolan Arenado did it. 8 years, $260 million. He's worth every penny of that. You're asking for too much. I'm kind of right now. I'm kind of over Bryce Harper.
Yeah, well, this actually helps out Bryce Harper because now he has another contract out there that sets the market for him because he's looking at his boy over there in Colorado, and now he's making an average of $31.8 million a year. So he's going to come to the whoever and say, look, Machado got $30 million a year. Arenado got $31 million a year. Let's talk 32, 33. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So I think if anything that helped Bryce Harper kind of set his demands.
So it ends up being 32.5 a year for Arenado. So if it ends up being 32.5 and Bryce does the same deal and does 10 years, he would be at about $325 million. So maybe that's the mark he wants to set. Maybe he wants to be $330 million, maybe $350. Whatever it is that he wants, it sounds like he's kind of waiting out those demands. And eventually these teams are just going to pull the offers. So he's going to have to pull the trigger one way or another. You can't just sit there and keep a $300 million offer out on the table for too long. The Nationals have already kind of backed off and said, you know what, we gave it all we got. I hear rumors about the Phillies and different things, but I'm just tired of talking about it. This guy just needs to sign and get this over with.
Yes, Loudbeard, I hear you, buddy, but, it's kind of kept baseball in the news. Right now, if spring training was going on and Harper was playing for the Nationals or the Phillies or the Dodgers or the Cubs, you wouldn't really be talking about baseball right now. Maybe if he hit a home run, you'd be like, oh, Bryce Harper hit his first home run in spring training, and end of story.
Well, I'm going to talk about baseball, but I'm not going to talk about a person anymore, Chris Merrick. I'm going to talk about the robo-ump. So Major League Baseball signed a deal with the Atlantic League, which is an independent baseball league. So they're going to test out a, robot ump, we will call it, but a machine will call balls and strikes. And they're going to test it out in the Atlantic League, and we might not be far off from there actually being a balls and strikes called by a non-person in the Major League Baseball world very, very soon.
I don't know why it's taken until 2019 to do this. I really don't understand. And I saw a report a long time ago about how they've had this technology, and you can keep the human umpire at the plate, at home plate, and you just put a light somewhere where if it's a ball, it lights up, blue, and if it's a strike, it lights up red. Whatever you want to do for it. But then the human umpire calls the strike based off of what the light says. And then he can make calls to the plate for outs and safes and bunts and things of that sort. You still got to have a guy that's there, facilitating the game like the home plate umpire does. So, yeah, we need to get away from humans calling balls and strikes.
But does he dress up like RoboCop?
Yes.
Okay,
and
then
I'm
all
gun, in. And, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm all in. College basketball, I just want to dabble a little bit in this because
we should have dabbled more because there were some huge upsets last night.
There was, and one of the biggest ones, Duke. Zion sits for the second game in a row, and Duke takes a big loss to Virginia Tech. 77-72, but with Zion out, Duke just doesn't have enough. So if Zion ends up sitting long-term or doesn't come back for the tournament, Duke is done.
Yeah, that's why I told you, Loudbeard. The answer is probably not. There's so much that goes into winning the the NCAA tournament championship, and injuries is one of them. Now, it's really surprising that Duke can't get this figured out with the amount of depth that they have on that roster. I mean, it's not like Zion was the only guy and Duke had nobody else behind them. Like, this isn't Memphis. This is the Duke Blue Devils. They always have a solid team with solid depth, well coached, and they're acting like the LA Lakers if LeBron goes down. I don't understand why they're struggling so much without Zion.
I mean, it was a close matchup, but yeah, I mean, maybe a lot of their game planning all year long has been so heavy on Zion because he was so talented. Maybe Coach K just didn't really put a whole lot of emphasis on some of these other players because he knew he had that cash cow. I don't know, but you were correct. And there was a near upset last night. Arkansas should have beat Kentucky. They had a huge lead early in that game, and Kentucky battles their way back and ends up beating Arkansas. You and I both know some Arkansas fans out there that have a podcast that I'm sure they're going to be talking all over this topic.
Yeah, and they were none too happy with the officiating last night from the SEC.
No, they weren't.
They fully on believed that the fix was in, and I didn't watch the game to know if it was or wasn't, but I like those guys, so I'm going to agree with them.
All right, I'm in. I like the conspiracy theories.
Yes.
So you got to go all in on that. Well, Chris America, it looks like it's about that time. We've had a fantastic show. We talked about Dawson's Creek. That was the highlight of our show. We want to thank everybody for listening in for that part because that was just utterly amazing.
It was fan-frickin-tastic.
You're fan-frickin-tastic, Chris America.
Yes, make sure once again that you download us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Podbean, or just go to ScoutTeamRadio.com if you miss our shows.